So in this module, we are going to take a deeper look at Electron Overbridge, specifically for the Digitakt II. So just to kick things off, what I'm going to do is go over to my browser and just go over to the Electron website and just show you where you need to go to install Overbridge and also relevant firmware and updates. So what you need to do is you need to click on support once you come onto the Electron website, and then just go pick a subject. And the first thing that you want to do actually is just go to Digitakt II and download the new OS update. So this will change as time goes on, but since Overbridge got released, we then got Digitakt II OS 1.03a, which was released on October 23rd, 2024. Download the Digitakt II OS, and then if you want to look at the release notes to see what's being updated, you can also go in there. Once you're on this page, you can actually go down to the download section here, and you can update Electron Transfer here as well, which goes alongside this Digitakt II OS update. So you might as well download that as well, and then it means that your Electron Transfer is up to date. Once you've done that and installed those, then you need to go down to Overbridge. So if we select Overbridge, and then we can go and download the new Overbridge 2.13. There's three things that you want to update basically: the Digitakt II hardware firmware, then you want to update Electron Transfer, which is this app here. So that's so you can transfer files to and from your Electron devices. Let me just close that back down. And then you want to also download Overbridge and install that. So once Overbridge is installed, what you can then do is go over to your applications folder if you're on Mac and find the Electron folder. In the Electron folder, you will see an Overbridge Uninstaller. You will also see the Overbridge Engine, the control panel, and then also any of the devices that you selected on install. So when you install Electron Overbridge, it gives you options to install various Overbridge plugins, and I have just chose Syntakt and Digitakt II because they are the only Overbridge Electron devices that I currently own. The Optitrack Mac 2 doesn't actually have Overbridge, so it's just Digitakt II and Syntakt for me. So what we could do to start with is we can look at the engine. So if I just double click Overbridge Engine, it will open it on this top panel here. So this should open when you start up your laptop or Mac Mini or whatever desktop device you're on, Windows or Mac. And then if you can see on here, so you got the Overbridge Engine, and you can see that we've got the Digitakt II, which is now connected. My Syntakt is currently off, so that is not connected. But if I switch my Syntakt on and put it into Overbridge mode, this will be active. Let's just quickly go over to the Digitakt now. So if we just look at the Digitakt, what you want to do, if your Digitakt II is not showing on the Overbridge Engine, just press the settings cogwheel there. And then what you want to do is you want to scroll down to System. Go into System, and then you've got USB config. So we click on that. Usually by default, you should be on one of these. But then what you want to do is go to the top one and press Overbridge. When I'm not using Overbridge, I actually just put it back on USB audio MIDI when I'm playing live and not using a computer. So because I switched them over, if we just go back to the screen here, you can see that the Overbridge Engine is, the Digitakt II has now disappeared. So let's just see if we can reset that by switching off the Digitakt II and then just switching it back on again. And then what I'm going to do is just make sure that this is now showing up in the Overbridge Engine. So you can see there it's connecting, so it says status measuring. And then on my Digitakt II, you can see it says loading. So now it's active. We know that that's running. So if we go to the Overbridge control panel and I press play on the Digitakt II, you can see we get a readout of all of the tracks that are playing audio and where they're coming through. And this control panel as well, it will show all of your other devices in this drop-down menu. But as I say, we've just got Digitakt II at the moment. So let's just have a play of this track and see what channels we get coming through Overbridge and what's actually available to us that we can then feed into our DAW. So you can see you've got the main output, and then you've got tracks 1 to 16. Then you've got your delay stereo, reverb stereo, chorus stereo, your inputs left and right, or there can be 2 mono channels. So that's if you want to take, say, an external unit like a Hydra Synth or a Typhon or another drum machine, feed that into here, that will then come through Overbridge. and then you can see output channels to the Digitakt II. So this is quite cool. So we can use these channels here to send, say, samples from Ableton or Logic or whatever DAW you're using. You can send loops and sounds into the Digitakt II or one of the other Electron devices to be processed. So these are the channels where you can feed samples or audio to. So you can send audio from, say, Ableton to the delay, the reverb, the chorus, or the main, which will then give you the compression and also the distortion as well. So let's just come out of this now. Oh yeah, one more thing as well. So we've also got the settings cogwheel here. I never have to go into this, but you can do things like change the buffer size. You can enable or disable the mouse wheel for knobs and sliders. I have this disabled because I'm using this Apple mouse, and sometimes it just messes up settings on plugins and stuff because I accidentally scroll by accident. So yeah, all of them are on. You can see that we've also got check for Overbridge updates, and we've also got automatically start the engine when you log into your computer. I would advise to leave these on. It just means that when you reboot your computer, you know it's going to look for an update first, and it's always going to put the engine on, so you know that that's running in the background, and you don't have to keep opening it up. So the other thing I want to talk about before we jump over to Ableton is the Digitakt II app. So you can actually open this up in Standalone and not use a DAW, which is really good if you just want to kind of use it for creating patches and just using a mouse instead of the actual hardware. But because I've been using Electron for almost 15 years now, I prefer to do most of my editing on the hardware. But I have found actually, with most of the new Overbridge updates and the GUI updates, things are looking really good on this now, and you can actually program quite fast on the app itself, especially when it comes to things like selecting LFO destinations, or if you want to kind of assign samples and things like that. It's quite quick and easy to do in the Overbridge apps. So let's just shut that off. I'm going to make sure that we completely disable the Digitakt II app just so that it doesn't conflict with the plugin. So yes, we've shut that down. And then just lastly as well, you've also got the Overbridge Uninstaller. So if you're having issues with installing a new update, sometimes what you need to do is uninstall it and then install the new update. So let's come out of that and let's go into Ableton. So let's just open up the side panel and go to plugins. And then if we scroll down, we can find Electron. So let me just try and find that. Electron Music Machines. And then you can see we've got Digitakt II, and we've also got Syntakt. I am in VST3 at the moment. If we go to VST2, you can see I've actually got VST2 set up for Syntakt, but I didn't install it for the Digitakt. I don't know if that was even an option at the time. And then the ones that I always use because I'm on Mac is the audio units. So you can see Electron, we've got the Digitakt AU, and we've also got the Syntakt one there as well. So what you do is basically just drag and drop that in like that, open it up. And what we're going to do now is just have a quick walkthrough, and I'll show you some of the options that we've got in this panel. So if we look at the top here, you can see we've got a percentage there, which is screen size. Now this is going to be pretty useful when it comes to showing you around this. So it takes up the full estate of my screen. Let's go to 140. And then it just means it's bigger so we can really see it. In this drop-down menu here as well, you can unpair the Digitakt, and you can also select a different one, because you might have more than one Digitakt. Sorry, more than one Digitakt II. You might have two, and you might want to select different ones. You can also rename them as well, which is something I skipped when we was looking. Let me just go back to my applications. Sorry about this. I should have mentioned this earlier. So if we go to Electron, let's just open up the, I think you can do it in both. Let's just open up the engine first and then have a quick look at that. It's not something I normally do, so yeah, not in engine, but if you go into the control panel, and then you can see we've got rename there. So you could call this Digitakt II, and then you could call it 1, and then you Digitakt 2, you can call it 2, or whatever name you want to give it, which is pretty handy if you've got more than one machine that is the same. Right, so let's go back into this now. So I've done screen size. I've shown you how you can select different Digitakts here. You can also put auto select. It'll just select it when it powers up. And then you can see we've got sync settings for the DAW. You can actually put no sync on. You can just sync it to the clock, or you can sync it to clock and transport, which is the one I have it on, which is default. That just means if I hit spacebar now on my keyboard, it starts Ableton, but it also starts the Digitakt as well. If I just put it on clock and then I start Ableton, I press spacebar there, but nothing is running on the Digitakt until I press play on the Digitakt. So let's just go back out to that and put it on clock plus transport. And then you can see we've got some other options here as well. So we've got input routing. So for this one, you basically, what you can do is you can send audio to these. I'll show you how to do it in a bit later, and we'll send some loops into the Digitakt. You've got these different inputs. So you've got 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. And you can say, I want to send 1 and 2 to main, left and right. I actually want to send 3 and 4 to delay, so I can use the Digitakt delay, and so on. So these are stereo options. Let's just get rid of them. And then if we just click on these different windows here, you can see if I press that one, it brings up drum pads. So then I can audition those different pads at the bottom instead of using the hardware. And if we click on the keyboard, you can bring up the keyboard, and then I can play samples using that keyboard. And then you can see we've got these two options, which are the main ones here, which is Kit Editor. This is the main editing screen. And then we've got Sound Browser as well. So let's start with the Kit Editor, and we'll just quickly go through an overview of the whole thing. And then we will play around with some of the settings. I'll show you how you can use the Overbridge to your advantage in a DAW when it comes to multi-tracking all of the different tracks, etc. So on the top here, we've got all of the tracks all the way up to 16. Then we've got the send effects, we've got the mixer, and we've got assign samples section as well. So you can click on these, or you can go on the Digitakt itself. If you press any of the tracks, it will automatically go to that track as well. So the Overbridge app and the actual hardware device go back and forth and talk to each other, which is really useful. So you can actually use both Overbridge and Digitakt at the same time, and maybe you want to program stuff on the Digitakt when it comes to, say, using the filter and the different settings, but then maybe when it comes to LFO you want to switch to Overbridge and select destination on here because it's much quicker. So you can use it to your advantage that way if you are using Electron gear in the studio with a computer. So let's go through the different settings on each of the tracks first. So you can see we've got sound settings. You can basically save, load and clear a sound. These sounds that I've got loaded up, they're not saved as presets at the moment. These are samples from the new techno sample pack that I just released. And that's what I use to create this little loop that we've got here, which sounds quite nice. That's going into the compression and overdrive on the Digitakt. So yeah, you can basically go in these, and I could save each of these if I wanted to. I could go save, and then I'll say it's a kick. And then if I want to change the name of the preset as well, I could call it, say, Techno Kick 01, go save it as a kick, and then save. I can either save it to empty sound pool slot, or I can save it to empty sound library position. So I won't save it at the minute, I'll just leave that. And then if we look at the next section, we've got the sample selection. If I go to sample on the Digitakt, you can see that it's pretty much what we've got on these two screens here. So you can select your sample with a drop-down menu here. You can go to the different RAM banks like this. So if I go to B, you can see I can scroll up and down that. Go to A, where I've got these loaded up. I can basically just go and select a different sound. Let's just test that actually. So if I'm playing this now, I've got this kick set up here. But if I go that one there, load that up. Let's go back to that one. Just a really quick way of selecting samples for a kit. And then you can see we've got tune, level. All this stuff is self-explanatory. We've gone through this throughout the course, so I don't really need to explain what each of these are. But it's all of the stuff that is available on the hardware. It's all replicated on here as well. It's just much quicker and easier to access. Let's go through the signal path. So you can see we've got the bass filter there, which is, you know, your high pass and low pass. But what you can do actually is you can right click on something, and instead of going to the LFO modulation here and going down to filter bass and selecting it like that, let me just get rid of that. What I can do is click on filter bass. You've got options like you can reset it to default value, and you can also then go into an LFO1 and set this as the destination. So it's a really quick way of just going, that one that's set to LFO1, I want this set to LFO2, and then if you go to L2, you can see that's set up there. Really, really quick way of doing it. And then let's just have a look at some of the other options as well. So the other options, this is like super handy for me actually, because when I'm creating kits, as I've shown you previously, what I like to do is I like to set things up in, let's go to the mod wheel. It's got these different ones here. Let's just set this up quickly. I'll show you how fast this is, right? So let's say frequency, we want that set up on mod wheel destination 1. That's done. Resonance, mod wheel destination 2, done. I also want it, let's say the bass as well. Yeah, let's do bass. I'll actually do this in real time so we can actually hear what's happening to the sound. So all I'm going to do is just change that one actually. So because the Overbridge software doesn't really have a mod wheel set up on there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold function on the kick track. I've just muted all these as well. Press function, then I'm going to press filter, and then I'm going to go down to mod wheel, and we'll just use this mod wheel here. So what I'm going to do then is go back to the software. Let's just get rid of that one. And let's set this up now. So what I'm going to do is go right click on bass. I'm going to send that to mod wheel destination 1. Let's just press play and let's have a listen. So you can see that that's working. Let's use software actually instead of the hardware. Let's just set a sweet spot for that. And then what I'm also going to do is go to the effects and maybe we'll do reverb send, mod wheel destination 2. Add a sweet spot for that. Let's do delay as well. Mod wheel 3. So you can see how fast this is to work with. It's really quick. I should probably use it more myself. Let's do one more. Let's do sample rate reduction. Mod wheel destination 4. Really quick when you just want to input different LFO settings and mod wheel programming and stuff like that. So let's go to the Digitakt II now. You can see this is all set up on Digitakt II really quick, and I can use the mod wheeler to create a build. Just bring stuff in. And then we're going to use that to snap back. So yeah, really quick to set up there. I wasn't going to go into mod wheeler and LFO just right now, but it seemed like an appropriate time to do that since we found that. So we'll just leave that as it is. So yeah, we've got bass, width and filter, all these other things as well, self-explanatory. You can already see what these are. So we've got the filter section there. What's nice is you've got a drop-down menu, so you can quickly select the different options. So we can select a comb filter, we can go back to multi-mode. So it's really nice that setup there. You don't have to go to the hardware and press function and source, then right to get to the filter modes. It's really quick and easy on the software. And then you've got all your different options there that we can see on the hardware. And then we've also got the envelope settings there. What's nice is it's all on one screen, so it's really easy and quick to program. We've got the amp section, and then we've also got the effects section as well, with your delay, reverb, chorus, your bit reduction, sample rate reduction. You can change the routing there just like you can on the hardware. That is pretty much it really. And then I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but yeah, the sample machine as well. Just nice that you can quickly change that to a MIDI track if you want, or you can change it to these different sample options here and test them out. So that's it for the track. It's the same on every track. So you can go through all these different tracks and change all of the different settings on there. And then if we go all the way to the right, you can see that we're able to manipulate the effect settings here. So you can see we've got chorus settings, the delay settings, and also the reverb settings. What I do like about the software is the way that things are displayed is really nice. So if I change the delay time, you can see how it changes on this axis here, which is quite nice. Let me just press play. Don't think I've got any delays going in actually. Let's just send the hat to the delay. Go back to send effect. So you can see change the time there. I can also reset to default value by double clicking or going into this menu and pressing it there. Let's leave it on ping pong, stereo width. All really self-explanatory stuff that we're used to on the hardware anyway. So let's just come off that. And you can see with the reverb as well, we've got some nice kind of graphics to show us the filtering, the feedback shelf, and also the decay time as well as we bring that up and down. Really simple GUI, but I just really like it. It's nice and clean and easy to see what everything is. Let's now go over to the mixer. So with the mixer here, you can see we've got everything just laid out nicely. We've got the compressor routing there. You can see for this setup, I've actually got the bass going to the kick. So if I take the kick out, sorry, the kick is sidechaining the bass. Put it back in, you can hear it ducking. So you can see I can able to set that up there. If I want to then add that to the shakers and the rides, I can quickly switch it on there. So yeah, it's really nice and quick to use that. And then we've also got the compressor settings. What I like about this again is that you can see things nice and clearly on the screen there. So with the threshold and the knee and everything like that, you can see where that point is. If I change the ratio, you can see it changes the intensity of that compression. And then we can also change the threshold like so. And then onto the right of that, you see we've got attack release settings, sidechain source. So I've just set that up as the kick, and the frequency, I've just pulled that down. So it's listening to the sub and bass elements of the kick. And then, yeah, just got gain and dry wet there. On the bottom here, we've got the external in options. So you can see I can put dual mono on if I want. So if I want to take in two different mono devices, I can do it that way, or I can just have a stereo input if I want to use, say, like the Typhon, or if I want to bring the Syntax stereo outputs into the Digitakt II inputs, I can do that. Then you've got all your other options there, like chorus delay sends and things like that. What's also cool as well is you can change the audio too as well. So stereo input, audio 2, you could basically change it to track 7 if you want, but I'm just gonna leave it on track 20, external input. And then the mixer here. So you can see with all of these, what's really cool about this is, and this wasn't on the older versions of Overbridge. Let me see if I can get this more on screen. Nah, I'll leave it at 140. So yeah, what's nice about this is on the older versions of Overbridge, you wasn't able to do this. You wasn't able to switch things around and say, I want the external input to go to track 16. Output of track 16, sorry, not to track 16. It's the output, the digital output. And you can change all these as well. And I'll show you what these mean in a second when we go back into Ableton. So I can swap these around and change them. I could even like bus stuff as well if I wanted to. So let's say if I want like track 2, track 3, and track 4, let's say that's like my hat, clap, kick, and tom, I can send them all out on bus 1 and then just have one track for them. But I'm just going to leave these as they are. So let's just put them back. And then you can also do things like mute them. So this is toggle mute for the track pattern, and this one is to toggle mute the track pattern stored in the pattern. So that's just basically like your different pattern mutes there. Sorry, different mutes. And then we've also got the panning, and you can see we've also got volume as well. And then if I press play, you can see the audio coming through on there. So we've got a visual representation of the audio. See which tracks are active and which are not. And then if you go to the right here, you've also got options for sending the delays, reverbs, and choruses out. You've also got the volumes there. And you've also got the pattern out audio. So this is like your main output, which is going to left and right at the top there. And we can also add or decrease the overdrive there as well. When you send stuff out of here, you've got this overdrive, but if you do the separate outs, then you're not going to have the overdrive enabled. That's what we're going to come on to now, actually, while we're on this screen, is how you can send these different outputs into Ableton. So if we go to Ableton, I'm just going to put in 8 audio tracks. Actually, I need to do 7, I think, because I'll use this one as... No, we'll do it, actually. Yeah, let's do 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call these T1, T2, T3, T4, just for reference. You can label these after if you want. T5, T6, T7, let's do one more, T8. And if you haven't guessed already, the idea is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to multi-track each of the different tracks from the Digitakt II, which is super powerful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the external in bit here. I'm going to select one, which is Digitakt. And then what I'm going to do is just click off each of the tracks and go into these separately. So this one, I want this to be track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, track 5, track 6, track 7, track 8. By the way, this is a lot to set up, right? Every time you want to create a track in Ableton or record it. So what you might want to do is you might want to go into your DAW and save it as a live set template or as a default set. Obviously, that's going to be different in different DAWs, but in Ableton, what you can do is you can set it as the default set. So when you open up your Ableton project, this is how you see Ableton. I've got one set up at the moment for all my hardware, and everything's just set up ready to go and record. Or you can save it as a template, and then that means that you can open different templates to start with in Ableton Live, which are all accessed in the panel over there. So what we're going to do then is just press play now, and let's turn off track 1, which is the master, and I'm just going to switch all of these on. You can see they're all coming through now. The level mixes are all a little bit different. So what you can do is you can obviously change the levels in Ableton individually, or if you go into the hardware, what you can do is you can go to this option here in the routing, pre and post fader. If you go to pre, you can hear it massively changes the volumes there. Actually, I've got this the wrong way around. What we was getting was actually the balance level mix that I already created on the hardware. It was just a bit quieter, that's all. But if you have it on pre, it means that it basically skips all of that post leveling and it just puts them all to 0. So you want to keep that on post, really. Otherwise, you're just going to mess up the mix that you've created in here. Yeah, so what we also want to do is we want to bring in the reverb and delay effects, maybe the chorus as well. So what we can do is we can add another audio track. Now let's just look at the Digitakt, and there is an issue here which can be fixed. So if we go to the mixer section, and let's say we look at this and we go, oh, delay, reverb, chorus. So they're on 17, 18, and 19. If I click that off now and I go to this audio track, I can go external in, sorry, not external in, Digitakt II, and then you can see actually it stops at 15, which is a bit of an issue, right? So with plugins, I think this is plugins in Ableton, or it could just be all plugins in general. They stop at 16 tracks. So with the master as well, that's actually 16, which is a bit of an issue, but thankfully what Electron have done is they gave us that option that we talked about earlier, which is the Audio 2 option. So what I could do then is, let's say if I'm not using 9 to 16, I can just put them to main output or whatever. Yeah, let's stick them on main output just to get them out of the way. Main output. And in fact, what I'm doing there really is I'm bussing them all to left and right. There we go. So they're all left and right now. What I can then do is change these to 9, 10, and 11. So if we come back out of here, we can go 3 options there. Let's go to 9, 10, and 11. So this would be, let me just go back. Delay, reverb, and chorus. Whoops. Reverb, chorus, and if we hit play now, we should see those come in. And we can solo these to check it. So you can hear there, we've got the delay and reverb. And then what you could also do is go in, if you wanted to, if you want to make this really easy to use when you're opening up your Ableton template, is I can't type on a keyboard today for some reason. I'm struggling. I'll just do 4. Let's just call that perk. Let's just call this one. Let's just do Tom. I really cannot type. Yeah, so we've got kick. Let's just colour that black. Snare, orange. Perk, let's do a green. This is what I normally do for these. Red for Tom. And so on. Like if you've got hats, you might colour them yellow. Just give it a bit more organisation. And let's go ahead and record what we've got now. So in Ableton, it's really simple. You can just click on all of these to highlight them, hit record. You might want to record the master as well, so let's just bring that in as well. And then my options are I can go like that and hit spacebar real quick to stop it if I want to record them all as clips. Or what I could do is just hit stop. Could go to the arrangement screen and we could record it in this screen. So if I just hit record now, like magic, we're getting all of those captures of the different tracks recorded separately. And almost pretty much in time as well. So that's another good thing with using the Overbridge, is that everything is pretty much in time. Also with these as well, if we press play, you're not going to hear these audio tracks here. What you're actually going to hear is the Digitakt II. So what you want to do is, if you're going back and forth recording and then arranging, you want to select these tracks and put them all on auto. What that means is, if we hit play now, it's going to be playing this audio from the recordings. If we get to the end, it's then going to switch to the audio from the Digitakt. Then we can record some more later on. I want to record it there. Let's just come back out of that. Just hit stop on there. So yeah, what we've done then is we've recorded these in separately, and you can hear that we can go in there, listen to them separately. If we want to do things now, like go into Ableton, add maybe some EQ on the kick. Let's just check out that kind of muddy bit there. Maybe want to add a bit of topping. Maybe you want to go to the snare and add some reverb, etc. I mean, I've already got reverb on that anyway, but it's kind of, your options are unlimited now. And those processes that you add on each of these tracks won't just be added to the samples that you've recorded, sorry, the stems that you've recorded. They'll be applied to what's coming in as well, which is really, really cool. So yeah, you can basically process all of the individual tracks. If you wanted to as well, you could then group all of these tracks together into one big bus group, and then you can add stuff like saturation and compression and bus EQ for a final mix, and you can really like put everything together in a really nice way. So that's how I would use it. Let's just ungroup that. While we're on the topic of bringing these tracks in, let's also talk about the mixer again and just look at the other way in which we can bring these in. So let's say 1 to 8, let's say that's all drums. I might just want to bring that through on track 1 like this. But I might want to put my effects on a different channel. So let's say track 2 is my effects, but then all of my dry elements come through on track 1. Let's just delete these. Bring in an audio track. I'm just trying to show you a different way of doing things. External in. Oh, sorry, not external in. I want to go Digitakt II. Let's say track 1 for that. And then let's go Digitakt II. Track 2. So this would be drum bus. That would be effects. Let's add, actually, let's just leave that as effects, actually. Let's say if you want to bring in another audio track. Let's go in here. And then let's go to the mixer. So let's say 9 is vocals. Let's put that on track 3. And 10 is pads. Let's put that on track 4. And then you can basically just organize things in a different way. So let's go vocals, pads, Digitakt II, 3, and 4. And then you want to click on in or auto. So yeah, just a different way of doing it. You can hear everything's coming through now on that one channel. And don't forget, we've always got the master that we can record at the same time. So I really like that about this as well. You can basically divvy up the tracks to recording as separates, however you please, and you can also just record the master alongside that. So you've always got a master recording, and then you've also got the separate tracks as well. So what I'm just going to quickly talk about now is sending audio samples or tracks into the Digitakt to maybe do things like use the onboard effects. So what you can do is you can basically open up a track like this, drop in a loop. So let me just go back to main on this. I'm just going to press play. I've got this drum loop here. What I can then do is go to the output, select Digitakt, and choose one of these. So remember these pairs that we had earlier. So we've got 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Let's go 1 and 2. Then if we go to Digitakt, I've basically muted all the tracks as well, so we can only hear what's going on with this sample. But if we go to the inputs here, I could send those drums to the delay. It was kind of crushing a little bit there, and that's because you've got to mess with the output of that track. Too much and it's kind of going to distort. So we can hear that there go into the delay. Let's send it to reverb. Chorus. So what I've done now is I've just basically reset the plugin and deleted all of those extra tracks just so we can keep things simple and reset the mixer options that we had from before. So what I want to do now is show you a couple of things. So I've shown you how you can bring audio tracks into Ableton to record, but now what I want to do is show you how you can basically automate parameters in Ableton, which opens up a lot of different options when it comes to automating and modulating parameters on the Digitakt II. You can do wild stuff like send Max for Live devices to certain parameters on the Digitakt. You can set up MIDI controllers to route through Ableton, through the Overbridge app, and then into the Digitakt. It just opens up so much possibility. But I'm going to keep it quite simple for now and just show you some different options that you've got that could help you to create songs in this way using Overbridge. So I'm going to show you how to do pattern changes using MIDI notes, and I'm also going to show you how to automate parameters. The way that I'm going to do the parameter thing is I'm going to do it actually using Ableton Racks, because that's the way that I like to do it, and I'll show you the quickest and easiest way to set this up. So let's say if we go to track 1 and we go to the mod wheel. So we had this really nice mod wheel thing going on here. What we could do is, actually let's leave that one for now, because that is something that we'd need to do with some extra plugins, which actually I could probably do right now. So let's go to, which one will it be in? Let me find out. I haven't used this in a while. So not expression control. Let me go to MIDI effects. So MIDI effects, what we've got is CC control. If I go to mod wheel, let's see if that works. Perfect, that works nicely. So I usually use this CC control for sending CC messages out of Ableton, but you can also send it in because this is going into that plugin there. So that just gives us that mod wheel there. Straight away, we've got a mod wheel that we can use. And I've just noticed that some of the options that we had earlier are not working. So let's just set some of those up again. So we've got the filter bass, and then let's say if we do the delay and the reverb again. So just quickly set this up. Mod wheel destination 2, mod wheel destination 3, and then let's also do the sample rate reduction, mod wheel destination 4. Let's just set these up. So mod wheel up, bring that right up, reverb send, delay send, bit of sample rate reduction. And then we've got that there that we can automate. I'll show you some other options as well. So if we group the Digitakt II, previously we had 8 macros here, but you can increase those as well by pressing the plus here. So you can get up to 16 macros, which is really nice. But if we bring that back down, what I'm going to do is set up like macro 1 to do a specific automation. So if we go into here again and go to send effects, let's say if with macro 1, what I want to do is increase the delay time. So then what I can do is, let's just shrink this down. I can press configure on the plugin. So you open it up like this and then you press configure. Anything I then touch in the app with the mouse and click it will then show up on here. So let's say if we do, where is it? Delay decay time. So you can see that shown up there. And I also want to do feedback as well. But for feedback, what we can do is, let me just come out of this. We can set maximum minimums for these as well. But what I want to do first is map them. So decay time, if you click map on here on the instrument rack, then click that and then map it to macro 1. And then the feedback, same again, but to macro 2. And you can rename these as well. So I can call it decay and I can call it feedback. And then what I can do, so I don't go crazy with the feedback, is set a minimum and maximum. So let's look at feedback first. If I just bring this all the way up and press play, and then turn the mod wheel up. So you can see how I can set the maximum there. Maybe 93, don't want it too high. And then the decay as well. Let's just set a maximum for the decay. And we can also set multiple fins to one knob as well. Let's say with the filter in here, if I want to also bring up the high pass filter, I can then put that onto the configure at the bottom, map that to reverb decay, and then for that, what I can do is set a minimum and maximum. So for your minimum for the, I can't find it now, is it that one? Yes, I think it is that one. So yeah, it is that one. What I can do is I can set a minimum and maximum for that. So at the moment it's right up, and then as you can see there on the input filtering, what I can do is just take out those highs. Then we can add a bigger decay there. But we also want to set minimums for these as well. So decay minimum, let's go about there, and then decay feedback, let's go there. So we can increase the reverb decay, we can increase the delay feedback, and we've also got the mod wheel there as well. Which is quite handy. Don't forget, we've also got things like pitch bend, velocity, mod wheel, breath controller, and aftertouch, which we can also create these kind of performance macros with as well. So some of these are already set up. So you can see we've got pitch bend there, which will affect pitch bend. Let me turn map off. And then we've also got, I think pressure might be breath controller, but I'm not sure. But basically what you can do is you can set up custom ones as well. So, and then you've also got another set there as well. This custom one, you can choose any of these on here. So actually we've got number 2 breath controller, and I think, yeah, you can label that if you want. So let's just put breath, and then you can see it's not assigned at the moment. Oh no, it is, yeah, sorry, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. That should be set up. So for CC control, we've got track 1 breath controller. Let's think about what we can do here. Let's do the bit reduction. So if I go bit reduction to breath destination 1, and then turn that up, let's just turn this right up. What I might want to do is just turn the volume down as well. So we could go track level. Oh, you can't do that. That can't be done there. So let me see what else we've got. Oh yeah, volume. So this one will work, but track level won't. So if we go breath destination 2, as we bring the breath up, we'll offset the volume going out, so we don't increase it too much. What I want to do is keep it really simple. So we're going to bring the bass in now, and I'm just going to set up one more, which will be like a performance macro sort of thing, but we're going to do it on here instead of there, for opening the filter and stuff on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go configure. We're going to bring up the bass one here, and we're also going to bring up the delay, the reverb, and I think that should be it. So let's just come out of that. And then let's map these to the third macro. So we've got the filter, we've got delay send, we've got reverb send. And don't forget, we need to set the minimum and maximums for these as well. So with the bass, let me bring all these right down. And then what I'm going to do is just mute the kick, and then we're going to hit play. So we've got the bass now, and I'm going to bring that right up. And then what we're going to do is just bring up these. Delay send, reverb send. We'll call this bass effects, right? Bring the kick back in, bring the hat in maybe. Now what we can do is we can perform with these. High pass on the kick. We've also got that bit crush there. We can start to like lose the low end in the bass as well. Normally I would spend a lot more time kind of figuring this out and getting it all kind of like programmed in nicely, but I'm just going to keep it like that for now, and I'm just going to show you a really simple way in which you can automate all of those different settings. So let's just do this over, say, yeah, let's do over 16 bars, right? So what I'm going to do is just put a MIDI track in, just as a reference, just so you can see exactly what we're working with, and I'm going to call this arrange. I do this on all of my projects that I work on, and I use that as an arrangement tool by putting in blocks like this. So if I go insert MIDI clip, you can call this build. Again, I am really struggling to type on this keyboard, and then we'll call this drop. And then usually what I'll do is just label these differently in colors as well. So that's the goal. We're going to create a build and a drop. Then if I go back in to these settings here, the goal is that we just automate stuff. So as everything is now, I kind of just want it all to drop back down there. So what I'm going to do is make this really easy for myself and just draw everything in like this. I'm not going to spend too much time programming this. I just want it to be really simple so you get the idea. And then we'll go feedback. These can all be automated differently as well if you wanted to. I'm just going to do a really simple linear build up there. So let's have a listen. Actually, what I might do to start with is bring this mod wheel right up, right at the beginning, so we're straight in with a high pass kick. Can hear it building up there. So really simple stuff. Could add another one in there, ready to go into the build. If we loop it back. Kicks high passing. So really cool stuff. And then what you can also do is you can right click on the track just on the white bit there and go add lane for each automated envelope, and you can see all of your different automations there. Just think you could do that for every track on the Digitakt. It gets super, super powerful for finishing tracks. Right, so this is the last bit of the module now. I was unsure whether to cover this because it currently doesn't work the way it should. And I've gone through Digitakt settings, I've read the manual, I've tried testing stuff. It's either a bug or it's something that's not possible just with fins at the moment. So what I was going to show you is MIDI change messages. Sorry, program change messages. What I mean by that is the way you're able to change the pattern using a program change message or a MIDI message. I do this just on hardware by sending a program change from the Multitrack Mac 2, which goes to the Syntax, the Digitakt, and it goes to some other devices as well. And it changes the presets and the patterns all in time when the new pattern starts. Now, theoretically, if you look at the Overbridge manual, it does say in the Overbridge manual that you can send program change messages from another MIDI track using Overbridge if you put the MIDI track onto 16. Now, I've tested it and it does work, but the Electron hasn't kind of done it properly in the way that nothing else should be on MIDI track 16 apart from the program change message. But we have some other stuff going on, which as you go up the MIDI notes, it triggers all of the 16 tracks. And then as you go further up, it just keeps changing the pitch of track 16, as well as changing the pattern change as well, which is like really annoying. So yeah, I've been messing around with this for the last kind of half an hour. Still can't get it to work. Thought I would include it anyway, because there is a chance that they might sort this out. And then you can look at this part of the video and go, oh, that's how you do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. And then you can do it once it's fixed. So it works enough for me to be able to show you how to do it. So what I'm going to do is, basically I've got Overbridge set up here, and then you bring in a new MIDI track, and then what you should be able to do is you should be able to go Digitakt II output, and then you should be able to go track 16, drop in a MIDI clip, and then these notes here will change the pattern. Now, if I just go up and down like this, you can hear that we're hearing all of the different track sounds. Once we get past the 16, it just keeps playing the sample that's on 16, but keeps going up in pitch. It's just like a noise texture sample. But while I'm doing this, if we also look at the Digitakt screen, you can see that I'm changing the pattern. And if you press play, we're playing this pattern. Now, if I go up to the next note, the same pattern plays. That should go between A1 and A2, but it doesn't. It just goes A2, A2. Then it goes to A3, so you can see A3 is playing there. Now, I'm just going to show you how to do it anyway. So what you would do, technically, if you was playing a live set with Ableton as well, you could theoretically change the patterns. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to pattern 1. And let's put these on bank C, pattern 1, paste that there. And then I'm going to go back to A2. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to go to bank C, pattern 2, paste that. And now you can see we've got these two different patterns, C1 and C2. Now what I'm going to do is just find the MIDI notes for them as I scroll up. You can see this is going up. So let's just go for C1. Now, unfortunately, you're going to hear that noise on 16, but we can actually make this work for us by turning the volume down. Now you're not going to hear it as I go through. I know you are going to hear it. So, oh yeah, you hear it once I go to the other pattern. So it does kind of mess it up, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of unusable, really. Ignore me on that one. So what we'll do for now then is we'll go to C2 and we'll just turn the volume down. Now we're not hearing it on C1 and C2. So what I'm going to show you how to do is pattern change. So this one we're going to call this C1. And on MIDI click 2, which I've just duplicated, we'll call it C2. But then change this. So now what I can do is I can flip back and forth between two different patterns. And you notice that they change in time. So if we change the pattern change there, let's just change that to 16 on both. And it'll change quicker. Oops. Right, let's change that. The other thing you want to do as well is, on these clips here, you want to go into both of them. So if you highlight them both, and you want to change the quantize, take the quantize off. So it means that these initiate as soon as you press them, right? Because if you haven't quantized, what's going to happen is it's not going to change on beat. So if we just put the click on, hit play, they're going to change in time now. So what you want to do is you want to basically initiate them before the end of the bar, and then that will change the pattern. So if we go to the arrangement view, I'll show you this in practice. So if you was arranging this way, what you would do is you won't put MIDI clips there for a start. That's a bad idea. Right, okay, so let's just stop that. Let's say if after, let's say if we want to stick with this first one, and then we want to change this pattern to the other pattern when it gets to bar, at the end of bar 8. So I'll just put like the pattern change, like say maybe there. And then to change back, actually what we want to do is put one right at the end as well. So we initiate before it gets to the end like this. Now these should be perfectly in time. So we're gonna let that play. Then right before the end, it's going to initiate the next one. Pattern change. It's going to play. Then when we get to the very end, it's going to trigger the first pattern again. And then we're back to where it was. So you could think of this as a song mode, but a song mode in Ableton Live. Now you could create a song over say 8 different patterns or 16 patterns, or however many you want to use, and you might section them off as like intro, verse, breakdown, build, And then you can use these markers, these MIDI clip markers along your arrangement to basically map out a song. Now, if you combine that with the addition of being able to create all of those automations that we were doing before, you've basically got a song mode and all these automations that you can basically lay out a full track in Ableton Live with all the effects processing and all of that stuff while the machine's actually running, and you're not having to record it in and then arrange it. It's a very, very powerful tool, is Overbridge. And that's kind of the conclusion that I wanted to get to by the end of this module. I wanted to show you all of the different moving parts of Overbridge with the Digitakt II. And then by the end, you should be able to kind of encapsulate in your mind how useful that is when it comes to actually finishing music. Because you can arrange it, you can add effects to all of the separate tracks, you can program stuff quite intricately using the app, and then you can also do all the big automations for the build-ups all live as well, as I just said, while running the machine. So that's the big bonus of using Overbridge rather than just exporting it out. So before we finish up this module, we'll just take a look at two things that we didn't cover early on. One of them is in the kit editor, we have assigned samples on the right-hand side here, and in the sound browser, we have the sound browser. So let's go back to the kit editor and start with this one. So I'll show you how to navigate these. It's really simple. It's only going to take a couple of minutes to show you. So basically what you can do in the assign samples section is you can basically go into all of your sample folders. So let's say if we go into the raw techno folder and I want to go into my drum one shots and start to drop in, say, some of these claps. What I can do is I can drag and drop multiple samples. Let's say I want to drag all of my claps into there, and then I want to go back and I want to get some kicks. So let's say if I choose a few different kicks using Command on Mac to highlight separate ones by clicking them, I can then go and drag and drop them in. It's a really quick and simple way of quickly building up a sample slot list without having to do each one individually on the hardware. Also with these, you can preview them like this. If you hold it down, it allows the loop to play. So if we go into, let's go back out of here. If we go into a drum loop and I press play, it plays it until I let go of the mouse. So that's how you can do that. Also as well, you can delete samples. So I could, actually you can't do that on here. You can't highlight more than one. You have to kind of do them individually like so. You can move these around within, actually you can't do that either. I thought you could, but you can't. So yeah, once they're in there, you can only really play or delete. So you'd have to kind of drag and drop them back in. So that's pretty much it really for assigned samples. Just a really fast way to sort out your sample slot list. On the top here, we've also got the different banks as well. And then if we go over to the sound browser, let's just take a look at that. So sound browser is not the same as samples. It's sounds or presets that you have saved. So you can see in here, I have a kick sound. I like to call it presets. So these are basically presets. But yeah, I've got these different ones here. So I've got a bass drum, a snare drum, a hi-hat. I think that was from when I was doing the course. And then you can see I've got these MIDI track ones as well, which I've labeled with M. They won't really, oh yeah, you can actually, yeah, you can still drop them on actually. So you can drop them onto the project sound pool as well. But it's mainly for when you want to drag and drop actual sounds. So you can take like a preset sound, like this bass drum, the snare drum, the hi-hat, and then you can use them within the project sound pool. Also, what you can do on this screen is you can drag and drop them into the actual tracks as well. So if we go over to the drum pads now, on 15 and 16, you can see I've got the kick drum. Let me just turn this down a little bit. It's well loud. Bass drum, and the snare drum that we've just dropped on. So they are presets with all of the settings enabled. So if we go on to 16 and 15, you'll notice I've got things like the overdrive turned up, delay send, chorus send. It's not just a sample, it's all of the settings that you've saved as a preset. Let's go back into the sound browser. Obviously, I've still got a lot of work to do in this area. I would like to save a lot more presets in here, but you can see on the filters as well. Once you start to label these, so you can see like bass drum, we've got kick and hard, we've got the snare, hi-hat and synth in the tags. You can then click like kick and it'll bring up all of your kicks. If you want hard kicks, then you basically click kick, and then you can also click hard, which is somewhere on here. I can't see it. Let me have a look. Where is it? There it is. Yeah. So even if I take kick off, you see that hard brings that up, so you can label them accordingly. And that is pretty much it, really. So just to recap, in the kit editor, assign samples is where that you can drag and drop stuff from the plus drive into the sample slot list. And then in the sound browser, what you can do is you can move presets into the project sample or onto the tracks themselves. And that is pretty much it.